Dear participants of the conference, the Baltic Ways 20 years on. My starting point is that the political and economic course of Estonia over the past 2 decades has been, or can be seen as having been, very monotonic and unilinear, and at least in the light of the recent election results, it seems to be widely accepted by a clear majority of the citizenry. Many commentators call these policies neoliberal, but I would rather use the attribute national neoliberal, or perhaps nation-liberal, with a strong emphasis on the attribute national or the nation. In other words, it seems to me that the Estonian political system, its polity, continuously obtains its basic energy from a strong sense of being a national Gemeinschaft, a community of ethnic Estonians. All acts societal thus include a national dimension. People's daily work efforts are not only meant to advance the well-being of the individual, but also that of the entire nation. In spite of the individualistic tendencies that one can also easily observe in the country. In Scandinavia, such mechanisms of nation-liberalism are much weaker. This also means that a large part, or perhaps even the majority, of the country's citizens have deemed the sacrifices of the past 20 years and the existence of deep material and even mental cleavages between the winners and the losers necessary and in some respects even justified. Estonia has remained a country of great contrasts, but these are now accepted and perhaps even affirmed by a great number of citizens. Simultaneously, and almost paradoxically, however, there is also a great deal of evidence that the ideas of equality have by no means disappeared from Estonia. There still exists a fairly strong egalitarian ethos in the country. There is, in other words, a substantial amount of support for neoliberal individualistic values and norms, but there is also a fairly strong ethos of egalitarianism. An ethos that is reflected in national politics, I'm afraid, to a fairly limited degree. In other words, instead of the universalizing social democracy that prevails in the Nordic countries and that in many respects composes the foundations of these societies, Estonia's primary mentality is based on an ethnic egalitarian particularism that materializes in terms of cleavages and contrasts, both within society and towards its neighbors, and combined with a strong strive for economic freedom. This may appear as a ruthless type of society, but this is in many respects a dynamic one, and certainly, as you personally know, it's in many respects a very interesting one too. This also means that there is practically no difference between the state and the nation. The nation, or civil society, is not supposed to defend itself because that can cause problems for or even challenge the existence of the state. If incidents of the nation's self-defense emerge, the political and bureaucratic elites easily interpret this as unpatriotic or even being against the state. In this respect, one can still see traits of a Soviet-style political culture in the country. There is even the concept of Estonian-mindedness, eestmeelsus, that the Russian speakers cannot, apparently, sense. what does this possibly mean for the development of the country? Before trying to answer, let me note that it is clear that these strategies, this nation-liberalism, have in many respects served the country very well. In spite of the difficulties that many people have faced, the deep grievances, nation-liberalism, or a strong sense of and adherence to a community, is also a source of strength. The many economic successes of the country can be seen from this perspective. But I am not quite sure that this logic will be equally useful or helpful also in the future. The balance between individualism and communitarianism is always a very intricate issue, but I believe that the role of the former will have to increase in the future. Maybe an analogy to the European level is helpful in this respect. For a very long time, it was the idea of peace and democracy that gave the European integration process its basic energy, its basic dynamism. There was a very strong need to recover from the trauma of the Second World War through a peace process. Over the past decade or so, however, European surveys have clearly shown that this initial rational or narrative of integration no longer functions in the same way as it used to. Instead, people, above all the younger ones, seem to expect that the European Union fulfill the deepest needs for individualistic freedom. Very many different types of freedom. Freedom to travel, to work, to consume, to love all over the European continent and even beyond. Peace, in this respect, only plays a secondary role in today's Europe. I believe that developments in Estonia will gradually follow, or will have to follow, this path as well. The question is that the state must be able to fill people's individualistic aspirations as ordinary Europeans to an ever greater degree. And this may very well mean that the strength of the attribute nation or national will have to decrease considerably. Sticking to the possibility of extraordinary political measures may indeed be directly harmful to the ethos of normal, democratic, European-minded individualism. Or, let me put the point this way. What I believe will have to be needed in future Estonia is a form of what I call social individualism. It's an open form of individualism that understands the demands of the various levels of communities, that understands the demands of the national level and the European level, and even the global level, on an equal footing. Thank you.